Thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to talk about performance. I'm going to talk about quite a bit today. I'm going to go pretty fast. I tried to cut some of it down. Hopefully it's not too technical. I will see how much I cover. I'm going to try and do a live demo because I'm crazy. And and I don't know if I don't have time for questions at the end, just kind of find me afterwards. So, all right, let's get started. So first, a little bit about me. I think actually most of this was covered. So I'm from Arizona. I live in Northern California now, though. I went to school, University of Arizona, studied computer engineering, worked at AMD in Austin, Texas for a couple years after that, and worked on the design team for the first 64-bit processor, and that little part there was mine. Then I went backpacking for 3.5 years around the world after that, which is, if you want to talk about travel, come find me later too. WordPress, so back in, I think it was 2011, just after my daughter was born, I got into WordPress and doing some freelance consulting development work at the time. Did some plugin development and worked on a back-end service for a client, and that client ended up being successful. Ended up with hundreds of his own clients and sites, but he was having performance and security issues with his sites. So I took a look and I was like, oh, I can solve that. And that's how Site District was born. And so we've been doing WordPress hosting, and we now have hundreds of clients and thousands of sites on our platform. All right, so here's what I want to talk about today. First, why performance matters. Like, why are we even here? So I'll cover that. Measuring website performance. So WordPress hosting and the effect on it. We'll talk about diagnosing the server response time. So we'll talk a bit about the full load of your page into the browser when people are looking at it. And then a little bit about caching and, like I said, demo if there's time. All right, let's hold the questions until the end unless they're critical.
What may be critical, will we get a printout of your slides?
Yeah, so on the first slide I had a link to it, and I think kind of towards the end I had another link to it. I'll also tweet it out afterwards. And yeah, so. All right, first, why does performance matter? Well, there's a website that I like that I think really kind of communicates the question well. And so I'm not affiliated with them, and I just thought this is a really good marketing page for why WordPress performance matters. So why does speed matter? Some other reason, summing it up, conversions and page abandonment. Like if you've got a business you're making money off of it, you want those pages to load fast. If you're working and developing on WordPress, then it wastes your time if the WordPress admin and the back end is slow. Visitor customer perception. So if you've got someone come on your site and it takes a long time to load, they're not going to think as highly of you and your website. Your Google ranking. And so speed, Google has said, at least in some cases, speed is definitely a factor in their ranking. And client satisfaction. You build a nice, fast website for someone, they're more likely to be happy with it, come back for more, or recommend you to someone else. So. And I'd like to claim even more boldly that speed equals happiness. So so to drive that point home, how many people have you heard say that? All right, so a quick survey for the Beginner's Day version here. How many of you are just starting with WordPress and haven't even used it yet? Okay, got about 5-6 hands. Have a new site that 3 months or so that you're just starting on. All right, a few more. How many of you recently bought a hosting package for 1 to 3 years? All right, about 10 people. How many of you worked on or developed on a site that was slow or became slow? Oh, look around there. Got the most hands on that one. I should have asked the other questions I have in here too. How many have no frickin' clue what affects WordPress performance or how to improve it? All right. Hopefully, I think you're in the right place. So I just made this slide this morning. I want to talk a little bit about habituation and the idea of that. I'm not a psychologist, so if someone's in here and I've got it totally wrong, sorry. If you're just getting started on your site, then whatever speed you're developing on will probably seem normal to you. But you'll probably actually not understand the magnitude of the difference in WordPress speed until you actually experience it. Variations in speed for the same site can actually be huge, and sites can be 10 times faster on some hosts or with unnecessary plugins compared to an optimized version. And I'll do a quick demo of that here. I've got a site that's hosted at one place, you could probably figure out if you want, and then a copy that's running on our hosting, and I'll show you the difference between the two. So I'm going to load this up, and it is going through my phone, so might be some, we'll see how long what it's like. But you notice I'm clicking around, kind of waiting for it. How long does it take to get from one page to another? So that's one version. Maybe try one more page. All right, now let's go to the exact same site, but hosted on our, whoops, if I spell it right. Okay, same site. Notice the difference. Exact same site. And this is not caching at work. This is PHP generating the WordPress pages as we go.
That's running off your phone.
And it's running through my phone because I tethered. Because the Wi-Fi, you know, Wi-Fi at these places. So, okay, so that's the demo. So hopefully you can actually see a little bit there of the actual difference in speed. And so I was trying to get to the idea of experiencing it a little bit. You saw how long it took to click through some of those pages. All right, so why don't more developers, designers, and site owners fix slow sites? And my hypothesis is that slow is comfortable and optimization is risky and uncertain. You or they don't know how to make a site faster. And you don't know if or how much faster your site could be. And it's not that you don't want sites to be faster, it's just not a priority. So I want to talk a little bit about that last part, priority. So I'd like to say that priority equals value over effort. We've already talked about the value of fast sites and performance. And now if your effort goes down, then your priority will go up. So my goal today is to show you how to minimize that effort. All right, next, how do we measure performance and what is good performance? So let's talk about some basics. This here is a simplified version of what's called a waterfall for a website loading. When you type in an address in your browser and you try to get it to load, your browser will send off a request to figure out, hey, where's that site live? That's the DNS lookup. After that, it'll negotiate a secure connection with the server with HTTPS. That is, if your site is running HTTPS, and these days all sites should be. And then it will send that request to the server, and then you will wait for some amount of time for that request to come back from the server. And that's the server response. And then once your browser has that initial page back, then it can start doing a bunch of stuff somewhat in parallel. It can start reading through that page and decide, hey, what else do I need to load? So it'll start reading the HTML, and then it'll decide, hey, what else do I need? What images do I need? What JavaScripts and style sheets and things like that. And then it'll actually do the hard work of rendering and painting the web page so that you can actually see it too. So this first part here, and sometimes just even this server response time here, is often called the time to first byte. And that right there is WordPress, and that's the bottleneck. I'd like to say too that WordPress by itself is pretty fast. It can run quite quickly in most places. But then often to make a site useful, you need to you put a theme on it. You start adding plugins. You add additional functionality, stuff like that. And then before you know it, your WordPress site could slow down significantly. So that's why we're talking about this today. All right, so what about this time to first byte? How fast should it be? Well, obviously, the faster the better. And we're interested in I haven't talked about caching yet, but When we're talking about performance, in a lot of cases we want that time to first byte to be as quickly as possible without caching, because caching is not always going to take effect. If you don't know what caching is, I'll talk about that more later. So I consider fast, very fast for time to first byte is 50 to 150 milliseconds, maybe even less. Fast, 150 to 300, and going on up, average, slow, and very slow. In some sites I've seen, it's 15 to 30 seconds. So someone is staring at a blank white page in their browser for 15 to 30 seconds before they see anything on some sites. So what's a good target? I think for WordPress, generally under 500 milliseconds for uncached time to first byte is a good target.
Just a quick question, does that include the entire render of that home page?
No, so this is just the time that it takes for your browser to ask the server to send back the first part of the HTML to the page. It's before any rendering starts. And so that's why I talked about it earlier as being the bottleneck. So, all right, so how do we test this time to first byte? There are some good tools out here. There's this Chrome extension that I really like, and it's called Page Performance. And it's got a picture of the guy in here. It's kind of weird, but you install that in Chrome, and for every page that you load, if you want, it's going to throw the number up here, and then you can click on that icon, and it'll tell you what your time to first byte is for any page that you've loaded. So I just have this sitting there. If I'm ever curious after loading a page, I can just click on the extension and it'll tell me. These are from Seattle. I didn't get a chance to update them. All right, and another way is you can actually use Chrome to get the numbers. So you can click up here on the little dots, you come down to more tools, open your developer tools. You can then click on the network tab, and then you can reload the page. And you can then get the time to first byte from there. It'll show it over here. This, though, you do have to open up the network tab and then actually reload the page, whereas the Chrome extension will show you for anything that you've loaded. All right, one of my favorite tools is Web Page Test, and that you can find at webpagetest.org. If you go there, you'll see a form that looks like this. Now, there are some important settings to figure out when you're doing this. These are the ones I think make sense. First, pick a location. I often recommend picking one close to where your visitors are, or actually close to where your server is if you want to test your server performance at its best. And if you also want to test your server performance at its best, pick a native connection. I believe this defaults to cable. Do one test run, but then make sure you click first and repeat view. And then also, this important one here is capture video. And after we do that, oh, that's just a summary of what I said. Then you click that button, and you might wait a few minutes. So you might be put in a queue. It's a free tool, and sometimes you have to wait for other people to finish testing. But when it's done, you'll get a report that looks a little bit like this. And what do we care about here? So first of all, we're going to look at the time to first byte, and generally that's what we want to optimize. And the second piece is the speed index, and what that means is it's the average time at which the visible parts of your page are displayed, so what people are actually seeing when they're looking at it. That's what we care about. Why? Well, that's because what people actually see. Oops, sorry. Also in Web Page Test, you'll get something, you'll get a water view, which is basically, it's very similar to that diagram that I showed earlier in the talk, but it's for your actual site. And I won't go into that in more detail, but you can also analyze and figure out what's causing your site to be slow using that. One of my favorite pieces is the film strip view. So after you run a test, you can click in here and see over time what people are seeing, or if they're using a browser to look at your website. So in this case, someone's staring at a blank screen for the first 0.7 seconds, and then the background comes in here, finally the image, and then the navigation renders and a few extra things, and then the cookie bar finally at the end. So we can see like how long it's actually taking for the page to show up to someone visiting the site. Oh, sorry, I jumped kind of quickly. All right,
Does that just show desktop, or can you do mobile versus desktop?
So you can choose, there are options to choose mobile versions, or mobile devices even. You can also control the network speed and several other options. It's got quite a few powerful tools. So built into it. Other speed testing tools. So, whoops, I meant to ask how many of you have heard about GT metrics or used it? So, all right. So then I was supposed to click onto this. All right. And why do I say that? That's because I feel like to get a lot of the useful information, you have to either sign up for a paid account or jump through things or switch screens for GT metrics. And it shows a bunch of things which I think lead people down a rabbit hole away from what actually matters. It's really hard to quickly see in GT metrics the things that I think matter, which is your time to first byte. I'm not even sure if they show that right off the bat. But then also how long it's taking for your page to actually render to people that are looking at it. All right. So again, just to hit that point home again, ask yourself about your tool. Is your tool measuring the most important thing and showing what your users are actually experiencing? All right. Let's talk about time to first byte, which, as I said earlier, is often the bottleneck. So what factors into it? Your hosting provider and your website implementation. And what does that mean? That pretty much means your plugins or your theme and your plugins. So let's talk more about the first one. All right. Oh, here's another live demo. A lot of people with laptops. So hopefully this works. Got one more fun little interactive part here. All right. If you go to this site, bit.ly/livespeed, you'll see something that looks like this, including me trying to talk to you. And I'm going to zoom out here a bit. If you've got a WordPress site in here, or multiple, you've got client sites, friends. I'm going to reload this once to make sure it's connected. Go ahead and put in a domain, come to that URL, and it'll start in real time. We're going to test that server response time and send it back to all your browsers should update in real time, and so should this one. Test as many sites as you want, throw in a whole bunch, client sites, and we're going to get an idea, on average, of what people's server response times are, that time to first byte. You can put in however many sites in there you want, and it's just going to kind of real-time populate and update.
So do you have to sign in first or that, or do you just...
No, you don't have to sign in. You just go to this page right here, put in the domain, and click check right here.
So it's digitally live speed.
All right, so what are we seeing here? Well, one thing that's interesting is this is a histogram, so it's showing the distribution of the server response times. And remember that I said our goal is 500 milliseconds or less. That is right here. Most sites are over here. So most sites are not fast. And then we kind of break it down over there. So, all right, thanks for playing. And the results for this will stay up, and you can hit other sites for the rest of the weekend if you'd like. All right, moving on. I was supposed to show that before I flipped over too. All right, let's talk about WordPress hosting. All right, your hosting provider. Yes, does it matter? Yes, a lot. And is better hosting the silver bullet for WordPress performance? Much of the time, yes, it is. Other times, well, a slow bloated site is slow bloated site. It might be faster on better hosting, but it might not yet be fast. So, is your hosting provider a problem? Certain providers are known to be well optimized, consistently fast, and not really have performance issues. Other hosting providers, it depends on the plan, box, time of day, other things, server configuration. Some hosting providers are known to be consistently slow, and others can be 5 to 10 times slower, as a more optimized host. All right, so let me talk a little bit about some of the differences between web servers. You'll find I put up this slide. Let's see. So a lot of hosts will be running something called cPanel, and usually that has Apache running with it. And you'll find a large number of hosts running this. But I've found from lots of experience that it's generally twice as slow as a more optimized platform that's running just Nginx and PHP FPM. So what's the takeaway from this is that If your hosting provider has cPanel available, then your site is probably not as fast as it could be. All right. Now here's a checklist. So what should your hosting provider be doing? What factors into performance? Well, a whole bunch of things. That's a big long list. Well, they're supposed to appear bullet by bullet. I'm not going to talk about those because you're probably like that right now. And so what's better than trying to figure all that out, see if your hosting provider has that, or or if it's optimized or working right? Well, here's a better option for checking your host. How do you know if it's causing all or part of your speed problem? Or if they've optimized it? Well, it's not hard to do reliably. Well, at least not while your site is at your current host. So try another hosting provider. How? And put an exact copy of your site on another optimized WordPress host. So copying your site to a new host. So a lot of hosts will let you sign up for 30 days, free, try it out. Some will even let you sign up for free and put up a development site without paying. So there are definitely some options to explore out there for doing that. So different options for moving, copying your site over is you can use a plugin to back up and restore it. Better is some hosting providers have a migration plugin that makes it even easier. It's more host specific. And if you can fully automate it, or without even needing to install a plugin yourself manually, then that's, I think, ideal. Here are some backup and restore plugins that give you an option. So you can get these from the slides later if you would like. Some of the hosting providers have their own plugins. And BlogVault also provides, they do a branded thing. I think this copies it to their server and then over to your final destination. And so there's a few hosting provider specific branded versions of their plugin too. And then we have an import tool, which I'll try and demo later as well, that makes it even easier than I think these other methods. So let's say you've copied your site over to a new hosting provider to test it out. How would you test it? You can use web page test, or we have some tools that will also help you. I'll show you some of those later. I wanted to say a word about shared and dedicated hosting or a VPS versus managed hosting. A lot of people, I think, have the conception like, oh, my shared hosting is not performing well. If I get a VPS, it will be faster. In some cases, that's true, but I'd like to argue that a VPS or a dedicated server is for flexibility and not performance. A well-managed, possibly shared or not platform can easily outperform most VPSs. What flexibility actually means is you just bought yourself a system administrative job, and so unless that's what you want to be doing, that might not be the best option. For most people, performance is actually what you really want. My friend came up with this concept called the total cost of hosting. So oftentimes, better hosting is more expensive. So is it worth it? And so some of you probably know Bridget. So she actually wrote a blog post on this, and you can find it up on her page too. So she said $25, that's what she pays for her hosting, and she thinks many people think it is expensive, is it? So she asked people, and she got a bunch of reactions on Twitter, and that's her page. Well, again, you can look up the slides later. And this is what do you spend $25 a month on is what she asked everyone, and these are some of the responses she got. Ooh, donuts. Starbucks. Amy's speaking tomorrow, by the way. And one of the best options, I think, or best replies was this one. Bridget's final thoughts. So your time is money. You're going to spend a lot of time on your website building it. Clients are too. So premium hosting, is it worth it? If it's an e-commerce site with any volume, you're making money on it, then I'd definitely say yes. Is speed important to the client? And is budget a concern? Good questions to ask. And good managed hosting often includes what others will upsell, such as backups and SSL certificate, staging, features, security, firewall. technical support at many of these places is also much better. So I actually put a ranking based on my experience of some people might object to some of this, but someone actually at a recent meetup told me they'd pay me to see this slide. So, for under $100, starting at $100, like there are other hosts that are more premium than this. I didn't include them on here, and there are plenty of others I didn't include, but these are some of the more well-known ones. And one thing I just noticed recently too is all the ones on this side here are running a custom platform, usually with Nginx or something else, and all these are basically cPanel hosts, at least for a lot of the entry level and options. All right, but wait, someone said at another WordCamp talk, you had my host on there, and I think my website's fast. Why are they in the slow column? Things to consider. Well, ignorance is bliss. Your site might already load in 2 seconds on, but you just haven't seen it load on 1 second somewhere else. Page caching. Is your site or host using caching? Make sure to test the speed of your site while you're logged in, which often disables caching. And yes, maybe it is good enough. So if you're happy and your clients are happy. And mobile. Test your site on mobile too with web page test. You can use that option someone asked earlier. Test it with a slower connection and see how it loads then. You might be thinking, wow, he just spent 20 slides talking about hosting. Yes, it is that important. This is a feedback I got from, this is a WordPress group about speeding up WordPress. And here's some quotes from that guy that I talked to and interacted with on that. He said he tried a whole bunch of other things, and 5 days, I think he said, trying to speed up the website, and none of his efforts worked. And so I recommended actually Kinsta to him as an option for speeding up his site. All right, hosting, final recommendations. Try before you buy. So do not pay for 1 to 3 years of hosting at a discounted price. It's a trap. Start on a monthly plan. And better yet, start with a fast host that provides a free development environment. Pantheon, Flywheel. We also will let you get started for free without even needing a credit card. All right, server response times. What if you've moved your site to a faster host, but it's still a bit slow and you're trying to figure out what's going on, or maybe certain pages are slow, something is not fast yet? Then, to most people, that is a black box and there's no way to figure out what is going on there. So today, let's open up that black box. All right, first things first though. When we are diagnosing speed and performance problems on a site, we go through a series of steps. First, we need to generate some traffic to the site, or wait for it if it's in production. And then we need to review the profiling results. I guess I missed a step in there. You need to enable a profiler on it first. So I'm going to talk about New Relic today. And then you make a change, and then you repeat. Now the difference between this and what a lot of people do, or all they are able to do, is when we make a change here, we're not going to be guessing. That was the title of my talk too. We're going to be seeing what is actually slowing down the site and figuring out what's really going on there. So that we're not just having to go through a list of plugins and figure out, oh, maybe this is slowing it down. So New Relic. New Relic is an application performance monitoring tool. There is a free version available. The pro version is most useful, and there's a free trial available. You do need root level access to install it though. Several hosting providers actually provide access to it. And I personally have diagnosed hundreds of performance issues across sites in very little time, thanks to New Relic. Literally in 5 minutes or less, I can usually tell someone why their site is slow using this. So this is what New Relic looks like once you get into it. First of all, it'll tell you give you this overview page under APM. Will give you a breakdown of how long WordPress spent in PHP, actually executing code, and how long it spent, getting stuff from the database. Well, that's nice to know, and it tells you your average response time, but doesn't really solve our problem. So WordPress or New Relic actually has a really cool feature. There's a WordPress page here, and there's 2 pages under it, and one of them is plugins and themes. And if we click on that, it's going to give us a breakdown that shows us how much time was spent in each of those plugins or your theme. In the case of this test site here, there was a A/B testing plugin installed on it that was taking up a huge amount of time. That's the purple. And when I talked to him, we found out that he actually didn't need it. So in this case, he could just turn off his plugin, and his site got twice as fast. Oh yeah, these are some older slides, but I still see some common plugins, often slowing down sites. Jetpack. Yoast SEO, I've seen it slow down the WordPress admin, especially in a lot of cases. Now I'm not trying to paint these plugins, I'll talk about in a poor light actually, but I'm just more the fact that there are some common plugins out there that could be affecting your performance. Test and figure it out. I'll tell you more about that in a sec. So before using New Relic, this is kind of how I felt when I was trying to figure out performance issues, and then afterwards. So optimizing, oh, I forget why I put this in here. Optimization plugins can affect your performance too, actually. So, and they will, WordPress plugins are just more code. They're not going to make your raw performance faster. And they mostly just cover up performance issues. I generally don't recommend them. And you don't often need them on better hosting. And they can make your time to first byte actually worse on a fast host. All right, some possible exceptions. If you have a heavier site, you might want a page caching plugin if your host doesn't provide it. All right, so server response time optimization. So I actually, New Relic is a great tool, but I don't use it that much anymore. And until, that was last year now, a little over a year ago, our servers were quite faster than most WordPress hosts, but still not as fast as Kinsta and Pantheon. And I was using New Relic to kind of figure things out. But then we went and we upgraded our servers, and things got twice as fast. And that was even more than the 20-30% gain I expected. Sites were so fast, it wasn't necessarily or worth the time to try and optimize them more. So, moral of the story is optimizing hosts was even more important than I realized, and I do hosting. So sites can be sped up quite a bit just by optimizing the server infrastructure. All right, now let's see. So we talked quite a lot about that time to first byte, and I emphasize the fact that's a bottleneck for most people. Let's say you've got that optimized. Now the rest of your page needs to load in your browser. So what affects that? HTTP2. Make sure your host is running HTTP2. If you don't know what that is, it does require HTTPS, which you also should have. It's been around for a while. There's some great speed benefits. It compresses things, other stuff I'm not going to talk about. But some WordPress hosts are still not running it, so check and see. Image compression, this is a big one. So if your site's loading slowly, go back to those web page tests that I talked about earlier and check out and see how big at the bottom, if you were to scroll down, I didn't show it, those results, scroll down and see how big of a piece of the pie the images, the purple is there. And if it's taking up most of that circle there, then, and if you got a poor score, if that's not an A there already, then you probably want to optimize your images, and that can make quite a difference in the time it takes for your page to load. This is a cool plugin that will resize your plugins on upload and also let you do some bulk optimization as well. You can adjust the JPEG quality. It can convert PNG to JPEG, which is, won't go into those details, but just more things for speeding up your images so they'll load faster without reducing quality, which is important to everyone. Caching. All right, the last section. And is page caching the solution to your performance problems? If you have a slow time to first byte, well, no. And caching is for scaling websites with lots of traffic. That's really what caching was invented for, and what it's, in my opinion, people will have different opinions, what it's for. Your site should be fast without caching. And caching on a slow site or server only hides poor performance, and often only part of the time. And only use it as a last resort after you've done everything else. Where does page caching fall down? Your WordPress admin, it's not going to help you there. Your front-end pages while you're logged in. Large sites with a lot of pages, you're not going to be able to fill the cache with all your pages on your site. Sites with content that might be customized to the visitor. And the cache can expire, it gets cleared, or it could be flushed. And after that happens, yeah, that next request, yeah, it's often going to be quite slow. So you want your site to be fast without a page cache. Running about page cache, and this is, I think, one of the best articles that I've read about WordPress performance and caching. So, again, you can pull these links from the slides later. So in summary, a lot of hosts do provide page caching as well. If you can't get your site under 200 milliseconds in time to first byte, you might want it. Cache pages will definitely be faster. I'm just going to skip through these because I want to cover some other stuff. In summary, measure your performance first. Pick a good host or switch to one. If it's still slow, do some profiling with New Relic. Optimize your images. Use a plugin for page caching if you need it. And I didn't even talk about a CDN, but if you have visitors that are located far away from where your actual server is, a CDN can help speed up page loads for them. And then, if you're still having issues, ask someone for help, and they can often help you figure out, why is your page loading slowly. All right, thanks. I've got 10 minutes. All right, let's see what we can do with 10 minutes. All right, I'm going to do the demo thing now. That's not it. All right, I've got a guest tab here, so I'm going to go to our website and show off a few things here. Some of these things you can use for free and are useful for helping test your performance out. All right, just going to sign up as a whatever. Hopefully this works. All right, so I've created a brand new account. So if I've got an existing site, I can start by clicking this Add Existing Site here, and I've set up a test site on GoDaddy actually. I can put in the domain name here. Oops. Oh, it is, isn't it? I forgot to remove that. Well, I was testing earlier. All right. Let's see. Give me a sec here. Well, this is my guest session. 10 minutes, clock is ticking. Woohoo! All right. All right. Let's try again. Okay, so I put my domain in here. It's going to look up some information on it, and then I'm just going to add it to my dashboard. All it's doing is we're just telling Site District about it so we can do some stuff with it. So I click Add Site here. And then if I want to import a copy of it, I can click the next button that says, install the plugin. Before I do that, I'll just show a couple quick things. All I've done is told Site District about it. I can actually, there's a few pages on the left that are available to us. We can come to this web page test one here. And if we want, we can run a new web page test. And the benefit of this is you don't have to click through and do their CAPTCHA and stuff on web page test. And I already pre-configure those options for you to get some nice results. So I can just click run test and it's going to submit and go ahead and run a test on the site. I can also do some speed testing on it. If I want to crawl through 30 pages on the site to see the server response time throughout the site and give me a good idea of how fast my raw server performance is, I can just click in here and run a test of it. There's no page caching, so I don't need to click that button. And this is going to initialize a test here, and it's going to run through and see how fast through different pages. I don't think I have very many. If you run out of pages, it'll just loop through and go through another until it gets to 30. So this goes through and we'll test the pages on the site. So you can see kind of where it's coming in, right around 600, 700 milliseconds. All right, so I'm going to close that and go back to the summary page here and go back to installing the plugin. So now I want to actually pull my site over and get a full copy of it running. And I realized that I don't remember the password. Oh, that's incog. Where's my regular window? Here it is. So I'm going to pull that out of my password manager. If I can type. Woo! All right, this will go and log into my site at GoDaddy and install the plugin, our Site District plugin there. And then in a few steps, it'll let us import the site. And then we can run a couple tests on it. So I'll just click here, click again, and it's going to go off and start importing it. While I do that, I'll duplicate my tab. Come back, let's check out the speed testing results. So average speed, I'll zoom out a bit so we can see this better. So for 30 requests to the site on GoDaddy, we got 650 milliseconds for the time to first byte. That's pretty fast. It's basically a brand new WordPress install with just a couple things installed. And the web page test is still running. We probably won't be able to see those results because it's waiting behind 21 others, but it did go off. I could probably try to run another one at a different location. Let's try Denver. Maybe that one. Oh, I don't know why that part's not working, but live demos, fun stuff. All right, so this is coming over, and how are we doing on time? Almost, I got about 5 minutes. I'll let this finish. Let me go ahead and take a few questions, I guess, while this runs, and then I'll come back and show off the stuff finally. Yes?
Hi. How long does it take the test typically take?
How long does a test take, to run it? Which test?
Like if I put my URL in your site.
So it depends how fast your site is, but to hit 30 pages on the site could take a few seconds. Pretty much under a minute though is typical. Okay. You can come find me after with more questions too.
Okay.
All right, I've got a copy of the site imported now, so actually I have a full copy already imported over, and we'll let you review, and this will load up a side-by-side view of both of the pages, the copy on Site District and the one on your original provider. You can click this a few times to kind of see what a full page load looks like in the browser. So you can see there's quite a difference there. And we can also run that crawl, which will go through 30 pages on each of the servers. Wow, that one finished already. So average response time, I think that's a little generous. I think it's a little bit slower than that. But you can see the difference, like 41, I think we had 650 before. So let's double that because that test is running close to our server. Even then, that's still like 8 times faster. Exact same site copy of it. Various.
What's your view on light speed?
Light speed, good question. I've played around with it. I tested it out a bit, and light speed definitely is faster than Apache, but I've still seen, like, on the servers that runs on, I'll come back to a site later, and it'll just load really slowly, at least that first time. It might warm up, but I'm not seeing as good a performance as I do with Nginx and well-configured PHP FPM. Yes?
How about having, when you have Apache and Nginx running together, and then Nginx is like a proxy?
That doesn't, it might help a bit if there's a lot of load on the server from Apache handling static assets. It might affect it, but generally it's also still twice as slow for rendering that main page for WordPress. All right, so those are the results back. So, people are like, so the point of this was not as much to show, let's see. I can't find my tabs. I was going to go back to the demo page. There we go. So that was the demo. The point of that wasn't really to show, like, oh, hey, our hosting's that great. Really, the message I want to try to drive home is that, like, hosting does make a huge performance difference. There are other hosts out there, Kinsta, Pantheon, that are perform very well, are very fast. If your site's running slow, put a copy of your site on one of these other hosts and try it out just to see the difference. And then, if it's still running slow, do some profiling on it to figure out what's really causing the problems. All right, any other questions? Looks like I've got like 1 minute. All right.
This is something really dumb question, but does this work just as well if I'm using a Bunny CDN? Instead of the HostGator or the cPanel?
So CDN is something that sits on top of your hosting. And it just does a level of caching above your host, oftentimes for images and other stuff like that. A CDN, Cloudflare, such as Cloudflare, Bunny CDN, or other CDNs will not make your server faster. It won't speed up your site. In some cases, it'll just cover up the problem, but it's not really. It's, like I said earlier, CDN is really if you have people that are located far away from your server. You want the pages to load faster for them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's do one more.
So I use GoDaddy, unfortunately, and what you're saying is that, or this is my question: could I import, if I decide to go Site District, my website or my blog to Site District, or do I have to start all over again?
Yes. So what I demoed right there at the end was actually copying an entire WordPress site, over. So we pulled the entire thing, database and files over. With our tool. And like I talked about earlier, if you want to try another provider, you can use a backup and restore plugin, or some of the sites have plugins that will help basically assisted migration. WP Engine has one. I think Liquid Web might have one, and so on. Yeah. So Jason's talking about performance tomorrow too. So if you haven't had enough of it, come to his talk. So. All right, one more.
So if you pull a site over from GoDaddy on their hosting program to another site, won't you still need their plugins to make their site work?
So some hosting providers, let me see if I'm getting the question right here. If you pull a site over from GoDaddy or somewhere else, will you still need their plugins to make it work? Some hosts add some extra plugins. Oftentimes they're performance or server related. If you switch hosts, those plugins you, one, typically don't need, and two, probably don't want because they can actually cause issues. Some places provide like other marketing type plugins. All that stuff will typically come over with you. Some of them just might not work anymore. The ones that don't work anymore are usually the ones that are not necessary. So it's not usually an issue. If you move your whole WordPress site over to a new place, then it's usually going to work exactly the same. It's just the speed will be different. All right. There's my timer right there. All right. So thanks everyone for coming. And I'll hang out outside if you have any more questions.